Skye Squad, we are back in the building. Okay. So I would love to be doing this video live, but because I have an appointment at the passport office, I have got to be there. Okay, so we got to do this the old-fashioned way. We got to talk about Real Housewives of Potomac Season 9 Reunion Part 2. Okay, we're going to dive all the way into the nitty-gritty of it. And we're going to give you what needs to be given. And baby, let me tell you something. MiA, they roasted this child so bad. They dragged her through the river and through the woods. To grandmother's house we go. It was bad. It was so, I have never seen the likes of the way they literally eviscerated her storyline on this show. I actually felt bad for her, but it was also, you could see that this was gonna be coming. It was always coming. From the very start of this season, this was always going to come. And it's unfortunate because nobody believes her. And when the cast don't believe you, when the audience doesn't believe you, where does that leave you? With a bunch of Michelles, okay? That's why Michelle is on the thumbnail, because apparently at some point during the cast trip, MiA told Wendy or the group or somebody that she was the Beyonce, and they were all Michelles. Lord have mercy. MiA, why? We were all rooting for you. Okay, so let's get into it. This is Season 9 Reunion, Part 2. And let me read you the episode description. It says, MiA spirals backstage after her confrontation. Kiana and STACY face tough criticism about their relationships, and the women are left speechless. MiA finally reaches her breaking point. All right, so here is where we are when we return from this episode. Andy is going to check on MiA because she is refusing to come back to the stage. He basically back there with his cup of coffee or whatever is like, MiA girl, you're in a shame spiral. You've already acknowledged it. Let's move along. I personally feel like he was giving her sage advice. I mean, really, there's nothing else you could do at this point but just face the music and keep it pushing. I think that he, to be very honest with you, I felt like Andy was like, we have got a show to do. Let's keep this train moving. Girl, get it together. That's really what I feel like Andy was like. That's where I feel like he was coming from, to be honest with you. And I feel like that was that. That's what it was. Meanwhile, they intercut that. Side note, I got to rate this episode on a scale of 1 to 10. I'm going to rate this episode a 10. Last week, I think I gave it a 20 out of 10. This week, I'm going to give it a 10 out of 10. I feel like they were having fun. And there were elements of this reunion that reminded me of the season. What season did they wear white on Atlanta? And Phaedra and Cynthia went at it. And they were going at it. It was real quick there. The two of them going at it. Like, it was like ping pong, back and forth, back and forth, back and forth. Cynthia was like, win a case. And the argument between Dr. Wendy and Ashley gave me that Cynthia versus Phaedra moment from that reunion. Chime down in the chat if you know what I'm talking about. They have this moment when they're discussing Wendy's comments about the guy Josh that Ashley was dating, calling him Jack Harlow and saying it was a lateral move from being with Michael. And I'm like, first of all, Jack Harlow is, I mean, for all intents and purposes, if you know what he looks like, he's an attractive guy. I mean, so it's not necessarily a diss, to be honest with you. And by saying a lateral move, to be honest with you, that too was not really the dig that I felt like it could be. Because when you equate the fact that Michael is rich, I mean, and you're calling this a lateral move, I mean, it's not an upgrade, it's not a downgrade. I mean, you know, so I personally didn't see where all his friends would be like, oh God, she just ripped you to shreds. Jack Harlow is a successful rapper at this point. So like, what's the problem? Like, I'm sure he gets a mad amount of women. Okay. So it is what it is. Consider it a compliment. When somebody tells me I look like somebody famous, I'm like, oh, okay, thank you. And keep it pushing. Meanwhile, I felt like Ashley really just wanted a moment at that point, and she got it with Wendy because they went back and forth, and Wendy was like, clocked it. And the two of them ping-ponging back and forth, I was like, ooh, they gonna have friction next season. They're gonna have friction all next season, and I'm here for it. So much to the fact that Wendy had to go back into the archives and remind her girl, you were a part of bringing the story to the show about whatever was going on with Eddie or whatever like that, allegedly. You know, what was said at the time when Wendy went eight-ish on Gizelle and Ashley. Remember that? Okay, so Wendy had to remind her girl, you was a part of that. And the crazy thing about it was, you know, Gizelle almost tried to make it seem like, oh, but I took the fall for that. Girl, you brought it to the camera several times, you and Ashley. So it wasn't like you had no part in it and you just were the fall woman. Girl, no. We cannot rewrite history. We all remember how that thing went down and how many times the camera showed you telling Ashley the same story. Anyway, having said that, I have never seen Gizelle this activated at a reunion. Baby, let me tell you something. The way she is disgusted by MiA, I ain't ever seen the likes of. She didn't even give this when Monique was going ham on her with that binder. Okay? Monique was pummeling her with the binder. And Gizelle was giving nothing. This season, though, Gizelle was giving, girl, I don't want to know you. It was that bad. When I tell you the way, I mean, I think somebody wrote this. It might have been Bravo While Black's page. They said this will be studied. Okay, when we look back at Housewives reunions, this reunion is going to pop out as probably one of the most epic. And it's so funny because it's not epic because it's a bunch of screaming and hollering. It's epic because Potomac, the women don't really do all of that. Their arguments are understated but still cutting in a very different way than they are on some other shows. And I feel like that's also what really sets this city in the franchise apart, is because I don't want to say it's sophisticated shade because it's not always, but it is like, it's different. It's just different, and I can't really explain it to you. So while you might have on one show some like people are cursing each other out, that's not what you get on Potomac. They argue very differently for the most part. So that was interesting. And it was interesting that they cut Andy having that conversation with Gizelle and Ashley talking about, I would never leave. Girl, if you ever left me hanging in Miami, call it Christmas because I'm coming to get you. Okay, I'm coming to lay hands. I thought that was interesting. Let's see what else happened. Let me pull up my little chart. Okay. Ashley versus Wendy. So we had that. Okay. We had a package where Kiana talks about her and Greg. I mean, we all know that Greg does not really want to be there. And surprisingly, she and he have separated in terms of their living arrangements. And we learned that she has purchased her own condo. And, I think that that was probably a good move for them to really understand what this world will be like as they continue to navigate it. And I noticed that Kiana said something in the episode. She said some very interesting things in the episode. One of them though was that she felt like this show should not focus on people coming after children and families and husbands. And I'm like, girl, I don't know if you know where you are because that has been a mainstay on this show from the very beginning. So I think that Greg is right to be leery about what this is. And I understand it. Not everybody wants to be on television. And I think that that's a valid thought. But then, too, if your spouse wants to be on television and you don't, what do you do? That's a very interesting dilemma. I think it is. Another thing that she said it almost under her breath, but the camera caught it. She asked, were STACY and TJ ever really a real thing? Kiana, it was very, all of her stuff was very almost blink and you miss it, subtle, but Kiana is bringing something very, very interesting to the table now that I'm really focusing and honing in on her. And I think that, again, as I've stated in previous videos, you have to sometimes let people cook. And what I mean by that is you have to sometimes let people get acclimated to this surrounding, to this show and get their footing. Because I would almost prefer somebody who feels a bit more real than have to question whether or not what they are giving me is actually real. So I think there's something to be said about that. Now, STACY, on the complete other hand, tells us a couple of interesting things that will later be completely contradicted by TJ. One being that she and TJ are no longer together. And it's like, girl, were y'all ever? Like, here's the thing. If you have only said, TJ is my best friend, and she always states it that way. So technically, if pressured, they were technically never together. And she could technically say, well, we never presented anything other than that is my best friend. I don't know that that's going to work out too well for her in the long term with this whole situation, because a fan of the show, or a commenter, I shouldn't say a fan, because a commenter apparently wrote in and said that she and TJ were giving Kenya and Walter vibes, which is something that many of you have been saying from the very beginning. And she was upset because Wendy had on, I guess, the Bravo Fan Fest had said that TJ seemed more interested in the trainer than he did her. And I would say that across the board, we all agreed. The sentiment being that he did not seem enthusiastic about being around STACY. And it didn't come across on the screen as though he was really interested in her. So when we see later him having a conversation via FaceTime with Eddie and Greg, and it is, I don't want to come on that fake show with those fake people, it's very interesting because the way the relationship comes across on the screen feels fake to us. So with Kiana then questioning, was it ever really real? It's kind of like this whole episode of Potomac was so meta in the sense that we are discussing whether or not people are doing these things and faking things for a story. That is going to come up again with MiA. So the question is, who is the real STACY, right? And I said this, I think, earlier when I was talking with Kempire. I said, Stacey reminds me of how some people in news would operate, I think, if they were placed on a reality TV show. She presents as a QVC news type of girl, right? But is that the true persona? Because some people, when they go to work in news, they can put that on and they can give you, look, live, we're coming to you live from someone else's business. You know, they can put that voice on. But some people can also take it off and then go back to being their real selves. Is that what Stacey is giving us on this show? That's hard to say. It's hard to say. And, you know, what was also interesting was fashion was a big part of the episode. This particular episode, Potomac Fashions took center stage. You know, did Ashley copy Wendy's looks? I mean, it was very much giving. They were very similar. The red hair, the white dripped in the pearls. You know, MiA's outfit that was also worn by Dr. Wendy in an earlier season. It was really giving Wendy blueprints, right? Or at least according to Wendy, Dr. Wendy. And Dr. Wendy, to me, if I had to pick the MVPs of this reunion, it would probably be Dr. Wendy and then Gizelle. Gizelle showed up in this reunion in a way that I've never seen her before. And I hate to say this, but if we had to take Robin away to get this Gizelle, then it was worth it. I don't want Robin to be unemployed. That's not my sentiment. My sentiment is we're just getting a more activated Gizelle. And with MiA, it is, her sights are firmly set. I mean, she has a laser. She has a stiletto on MiA's neck. Not to mention, we got a scene that we had not gotten before with MiA about to get real G with Gizelle when Gizelle brought up MiA's parenting. And I'm like, y'all should have shown that on the show. Okay, that was a moment that we needed to see. Okay, I wanted to see it because it's not like it happened, but I also feel like with the tone and the tenor that they were trying to take this show this season, I understand why they didn't show it. But I also feel like if you're going to show it at the reunion, I mean, you might as well have shown it during the episodes, right? But, you know, when you're editing, you only have 42 minutes, so they can't throw everything in there. Then we get into Stacey and the dress and Stacey and the blonde hair of it all. And it was fascinating that Stacey had made the comments about nobody being able to wear that hair color but Karen, but then her showing up with that wig at the end of the season. Now that I think back on it, that was very interesting. I also thought it was very interesting, this whole situation with the dress and with Vivian. That is going to have ramifications for Stacey come next season. Watch what I say. I don't know how. I don't know why I think that. But I think that this dress debacle with Vivian is going to come back and haunt her. I don't know why I feel like that. I just feel like we may be seeing a lot more of Vivian next season. I just do. I wouldn't mind it either because, I mean, Vivian has to me, from my observations, just Vivian has a fascinating life. You know, I am fascinated by fascinating people who have fascinating stories. And I think that she might be a good fit for this group. We get into, you know, and Gizelle and what she was kind of giving, even with Stacey, is very much like, I feel like Gizelle is trying to say, I'm on to you and I'm gonna get you, sucker. That's the vibes that Gizelle was giving. There were so many little funny moments in this episode that honestly, I feel like I need to almost rewatch this episode again to really appreciate every little nuanced thing that they included in this episode. Because if you noticed it, there was a lot of like the camera just wandering around as they are meandering through like dressing rooms and getting touch-ups and little things being said here and there, little giggly moments and stuff like that. it was very fascinating to me to watch, just from the aspects of the editing alone, right? I am such a big person on like, well, what are they trying to tell us? You know, I literally look at those little moments to try to figure out things, because I'm just that much of a television and cinema person. So I love this episode. I absolutely love this episode so much. The MiA of it all. Let's get into it. MiA and Michelle's. MiA and the Michelle's. Baby, let me tell you, what we learned last night, I mean, well, not last night, but last night now, but in the episode, what we learned, the ladies feel, specifically Wendy and Gizelle, they call MiA to the carpet. MiA is accused by Gizelle of not even living in Potomac. Also, Gizelle said, girl, when Wendy was like, yeah, they're looking through my blinds, and Gizelle was like, girl, ain't nobody looking at your blinds when you live all the way in Pennsylvania. I was crying. I was crying laughing. But MiA is accused by Gizelle of not even living in Potomac and of living in Atlanta, okay? Because Gizelle says she knows the people that sees MiA on the plane, in the back of the plane, okay? In the back of the plane. The people somebody online has said something, and they read the comment that apparently it looked like when MiA was with Gordon, she was a businesswoman, but when she got with Ink, she became a Fashion Nova model. And listen, Fashion Nova, can y'all please send me some clothes or something like that? I am tired of, I mean, I got a closet full of clothes, so, but you send me some clothes too, because MiA said y'all paying a grip, okay? And I could be rocking Fashion Nova every day on a video and telling the people, go buy your Fashion Nova fit, okay? Send me some clothes, Fashion Nova. I'm tired. Y'all know I will show up I got 20 of these t-shirts, okay? Give me a black t-shirt any day and I'm happy. Meanwhile, but still send me some clothes. Okay, look at me begging online for some Fashion Nova. Okay, I'll take it. Anyway, she said they pay a lot. So, anywho, but yeah, I was serious. So anyway, the crazy thing is that, you know, MiA is very cagey about where does she live. Like, you know, and I haven't seen her around, so I wouldn't know. I mean, I see her on I see mostly her on Instagram. And so I have no idea where she is. She looks like she's just a jet setting around the country to me. So I don't know. But that's what Gizelle says. Now, Gizelle also thinks that she is still secretly dating Ink when MiA says that she is not, and they're just best friends. That's my best friend, as Stacey says. And Wendy thinks the whole thing was a scam, a scheme that Todd set up to come to us with the BS so that MiA could have a storyline, because without all of this, what would MiA have? Those are Wendy's words. When Wendy said that, I was like, oh my God, like you just like literally tore her to shreds. But the way Wendy said it was, if I could be honest, I feel as though you and Ink and Gordon were all in on this scheme and you wanted to come to us all with the BS. And when it backfired, you then reverted back to posting photos of Gordon, and none of you guys are now, you all are dealing with the backlash, and now you're spiraling. And Gizelle is, again, foot on the gas, is full steam ahead. You are a bad mother. You tried to come at me, Kiana. You did not protect your family. They are going in on this girl about, you know, the paternity test. Then they confront her about the IVF of it all. And I'm like, wait, if he was conceived via IVF, then wouldn't you already know? So then there's the question of, well, girl, if it was IVF, then you had to know, right? You would have known this all along. So how could it even be a question? I don't know nothing about birthing no babies, okay? I don't know nothing about birthing no babies. I really don't. And if you know where that's from, you're a real one. But I don't. So just like the quote from that movie, I don't know nothing about it, so I can't really say. All I know is that the people on the stage felt like that was a WTF moment. All I know is, listen, MiA, I don't know if you are coming back to the show or not, if you want to come back to the show, because at the end of the episode, she gets up and walks off when Gizelle starts talking about her as a mother. She's had enough. She's walking off. Meanwhile, Eddie and Greg are in the back room, FaceTiming TJ, and they bleep out what TJ says after he calls it a fake A show with fake A people. He gives some more tea, which stops Wendy in her tracks, which stops everybody else in their tracks. Now, we all stopped in our tracks because we don't know exactly what the man said. Baby, when I tell you that they ended that thing off on a cliffhanger of all cliffhangers, and I am seated here with bated breath, but now I gotta try to figure out a way to film my recap while I'm traveling. I don't know what to do. This is about to be too much. This is about to drive me insane. It is a lot going on in Potomac. Let me know your thoughts. Chime down in the chat. I want to hear what you got to say. I want to know what you think. I want to know what you think TJ said. I want to know if you think that MiA is coming back. Let us know in the chat. I am here for it. Okay? This was a good episode. So make sure you guys subscribe to the channel if you haven't already done so. Hit that notification bell button. And I'll see you in the next video.